All right. Thanks for sticking with us. This is very interesting, especially if you're going to be in the Boulder area and want to participate in something very, very moving. We'll give you details on that at the end of this. But we are now joined by Michael White, who is the father of Magnus White. And it was almost exactly a year ago.
Yeah.
We're coming up on the anniversary of the unfortunate accident and death of Michael's son Magnus, a rising star in the sport of cycling. And we were all here, it was right in between the men's and the women's, and we were pretty floored and devastated. But Michael is here to share with us how you're turning it into a positive as best you can. So why don't you start out by telling us a bit about Magnus? Obviously a lot of people in this area, especially in Colorado, knew a lot about him, but we have listeners all over the world. So why don't we start with telling us about him and what's going on today?
Yeah, well, thank you for having me on today.
Mm-hmm.
I listened to yesterday's podcast when I was driving up, and when you mentioned George, your son Enzo, and see these kids in the Tour de France, Magnus was first starting to talk about that,
Right?
Just recently, because he was always focused on dirt. He'd been in 2 cyclocross world championships, and he was getting ready for his first mountain bike world championship when he was killed. So he's a special kid. He had best friends all over the world. He spent a lot of time over the world. The last year when he was killed, he only spent 2 months at home, which was, that's hard. But for parents, right, to see your kid living his dream, it's awesome, And he was really moving into the road racing world. His last race was the Junior Tour of Ireland. He finished 5th on the GC and just time bonuses was the only difference. And he came home and he wanted to come home. He wanted to spend time with his friends. Because he's gone all the time. That morning actually that he was killed, he was invited to go race the Kermesse races in Belgium for 3 weeks after Worlds. And that was his last email was that. Mm-hmm. Was like, I'm going to take some time off. I need a break. I'm going to race cross season, all that stuff. So he was maturing and he was doing it all himself. So it was really, to see at that age, to see them really kind of become their own person is special. And just, the nightmare we've been living since. Yep. We're coming up on 1 year.
Yeah.
We all know it's a criminal trial. It's a felony homicide trial. The trial is December 16th, expected to last 5 days right before Christmas. And that'll be a year, almost a year and a half, since he was killed. And that's just, grief is hard.
Uh-huh.
And, to have that criminal aspect over it just pauses everything. Magnus' death though it was covered by, his story was wide covered.
Widely covered.
Yeah, 3,300 news articles have been written about Magnus.
Yeah.
It's mind blowing.
Yeah.
As his parents, we asked ourselves, what do we do with this?
Yep.
We sit back and grieve. The world would totally respect that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if Magnus would. That was his attitude. Wants to get out there and fight. And so that's what, we did. We decided to start this foundation. We didn't know what exactly it was going to be. We knew it was going to be something, but looking at specifically the cases or the aspects that contributed to his death and seeing a lot of the injustices of other cyclists that have been killed and other vulnerable road users that have been killed, that really kind of sparked our initiatives. And so the first initiative is just simple, quick infrastructure changes.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to support the large infrastructure changes. Those take decades. The road that Magnus was killed on, there have been plans in the works for now 13 years.
Right.
By the time it's done, it'll be 16 years.
And the difference, just real quick, the difference between simple and sort of more complicated, and I don't know the answer to this, but I'm guessing like a more expensive, more elaborate, complicated fix would be elevated or isolated bike lanes.
Exactly.
We know that infrastructure-wise and expense-wise from either the city, the county, or the state, that's pricey. But even, and we've talked a lot, Michael, about this road, but just rumble strips, just this and by the way, those aren't free, but much simpler than isolated or elevated. And just a reminder to folks, right? Whether you're veering in, and look, we live in 2024, right? And we all ride bikes, most people ride bikes who listen to this show. And most people that listen to the show drive cars, and in 2024, people are TikToking and emailing and YouTubing or whatever they're doing, and just a simple rumble strip it's just a nudge, a reminder, like, oh, I'm veering into the shoulder, or oh, I'm going into the other lane. It's just this that gets people to wake up. That's
and that would have directly affected,
of course,
Magnus' case, because the driver. She fell asleep. There's reasons why she fell asleep, and that's for the criminal trial. But she fell asleep, and would have that woken her up? Witnesses describe her as swerving.
You know what frightens me about this story, because when I come out here for this month in Aspen, I have a very false sense of safety because cycling's so popular here. I feel safer on the road than I do in Austin, Texas, and I think about in Boulder's very similar. Yeah. It's a cycling mecca. Yeah. And probably the only city with more infrastructure is Portland.
Right.
So these are, I'm talking about 3 cities who've figured it out for the most part, and there's still a lot to do. Yeah. It makes me think about our listeners in other parts of the country that it's even worse.
And it's a very popular route he was killed on. It's a 2-mile stretch that he has to ride back to get, from one quiet road to the next quiet road. Just ride it outside of town. And we know the Strava stats of people that ride it. It's insane. 3% of all cycling users in that month in Colorado rode on that stretch of highway.
But it's 18. A straight road.
Straight road. So middle of the day, 10-foot shoulder.
Straight roads equal danger.
Yeah.
Right.
Definitely.
If it's you're going down a mountain or up a mountain and there's switchbacks, it's very difficult to fall asleep. But straight roads just lull people into either, in the driver's situation, falling asleep, or it even lulls them into getting distracted. And so
driving fast. Yeah. The road design is terrible. That's an absolutely contributing factor to this.
I love the fact, I want to go back. I love the fact you had a 4.2 GPA. We don't need to go around the horn and announce our GPAs. Yeah. All I will say about GPAs, just a little lighthearted moment, is, and this will probably tell you what my GPA was. I thought 4.0 was the most you could get. He got more than what I thought you could ever get. Yeah. Smart kid.
Yeah. He had to, his first 2 years of high school was in person, but since he was traveling so much, the high school said, no, you can't do that. But we have an online version. So he was online school, but he was taking AP courses, honors courses, whatever they are. Right. So he got that credit. So he's doing his school while he was in Europe.
Well, and I think for us, and George, you can speak to this better, like having a son. George is out here, Enzo's back home training every day. When you're at home, you train with him a lot so you can keep eyes on him. But when you're here, I don't have kids that ride like that and like Magnus, right? But if I did, and Max Armstrong said that, I'm gonna go for a 5-hour ride, but I would worry every minute of those 5 hours.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's just it's part of our sport. I'm constantly concerned about it. You see me FaceTiming him all the time, tracking him where he's at. So I can't imagine everything you guys are going through.
Yeah, I track him all the time. So parents do, right? Yeah. And I actually saw where he was the minute before he was it.
And so let's talk about what we can do. I know we've got the ride coming up. I'm sure there's other events planned or other calls to action. I think this is a big deal, ladies and gentlemen. I think, again, everybody listening to this show, or most everybody, rides bikes. And that means you're nuts if you're not scared of cars. I'm terrified of cars. And I love it when I got a bike lane. Like here in Aspen, with the JB, to your point, like we have bike lanes everywhere. And if they're right beside a road, even if I've got to dodge strollers or runners or I don't care what I'm dodging. If I'm not around cars on a bike lane, I'm in. It's just a peace of mind, and I go out on the bike to rest my mind and to just sort of wander and cruise. And the last thing I want to do is be looking back the whole time. So what other things? I want to talk about the ride because it's August 11th coming up in Boulder.
Yeah.
Got the governor coming.
We have a lot of
folks coming.
A lot of folks coming because that's one part we want to change. The second thing we want to change is increasing penalties for vehicular homicide or injuring, for reckless and careless driving for injuring or killing somebody. It's a class 4 felony in Colorado, punishable by a maximum of 2 to 6 years. That's all this driver is going to face, if it even goes to that level. I just made a quick list here of other class 4 felonies in Colorado. 3rd degree burglary, identity theft, theft of property, 2nd degree criminal trespass, violating a custody order, abuse of public records, forgery, fraud by check, indecent exposure, and this one is the greatest one: criminal tampering with a utility meter to evade payment.
Wow.
Same level as vehicular homicide. So we want to increase penalties for vehicular homicide.
Just, a heads up.
Yeah, to not as put people in jail. It's a deterrent.
Just give them a heads up.
Right, like if you're going to kill somebody.
Yeah, the stakes are high.
Yeah. And
On both sides.
Yeah, and the last thing that we're working on, since Magnus got so much attention on his death, there's a documentary crew following our process since early on.
Yeah.
And we've followed us throughout the trial, but we've actually released 2 episodes now. One was just last week about other cyclists who were killed across the country. First one was about Christian and Michelle Deaton.
The Nike folks.
Out of Napa who were hit and killed. They both died instantly.
Yeah.
And then we released one last week about a bicycle shop owner named Michael Shipp. He was killed in Manning, South Carolina last year. And his son had reached out to me on the 1-year anniversary. So we released that last week. The injustices that family is facing you can't even describe what they're facing and how they've been treated by the investigation and the police and the whole legal system. So, a ride for Magnus, ride for your life.
Yeah.
We want this to be, it's important to have this ride on the first year. We were convinced of this. This was not initially our initiative. We were approached by a lot of people have been helping us, a lot of organizations, a lot of individuals, a lot of professionals. And we were initially hesitant because it's emotional, right?
Well, you're going past the site.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I mean,
we're closing all the roads in Boulder.
I'm just, time out as a dad. I could not, I'm just telling you, I just could not do that. So kudos to you and strength to you that, so I hear I can imagine that you would be reluctant.
I used to go out there for the first 2 or 3 months, every week, every Saturday, 12:30 when he was hit. Then I realized it's not where he is, right? And so now I just go out there to maintain it, really, like once every 4 to 6 weeks, just to make sure the bike and the flowers and whatever's out there is looking. And we have American flag out there because he was killed in his Team USA kit. And a lot of people have sent us American flags, in really nice letters. So we make sure it just looks really nice. Ride, though, we want 4,000 people in person. That's
I love hearing that.
Yeah, it's awesome. That's what State Patrol says. We cap it at 4,000 in person. We're like, great. Let's go bigger. That's miles and miles long. Right. We're shutting down the whole city. The whole highway is being closed for this, complete closure. There's a virtual ride as well, so you can be anywhere in the country. We're mailing some stuff to Sweden, some number plates. Some people all over the world are doing this. I think someone in the UK is registered to do it.
Let's talk to our friends at Zwift.
Yeah,
they're doing virtual rides all the time.
Yeah, there's a walking option as well on the CU campus. But the ride is 13.5 miles, so it's not short, but it's pretty flat. And at the end, there's a big rally for change. And this is where we're introducing our legislative asks for coming up in 2025. And those are going to be around automatic emergency braking, a national level ask, in all new cars in the next 5 years. They're doing it for pedestrians. They're not doing it for cyclists. And so we want them to do it for cyclists. We know cars are going to be much smarter than they are right now.
Yep.
So you're not going to get this weird phantom braking that you get now with some of that automatic driving stuff. So we want that in all cars. And on a state level, we are going to ask for the increased penalties on the state level. That has to be done on a state level first.
Right.
Magnus really seems to be this. He was the glue actually in our family. He was a glue amongst his friends. And he seems to be right now this glue amongst all sorts of groups, advocacy groups, national level, I don't even know what they're called, transportation agency, lawmakers, DAs. They're all want to be a part of what we're doing because they want change as well. And so Governor Polis is speaking. We've done one press conference with him already. The head of federal highways is coming in to speak, Shailene Bott, and Trek president John Burke is coming in, and I know he's very much on the advocacy front.
But real quick on the films, I just want to make sure people know where to go also to watch the films.
The films are all on our website, thewhiteline.org.
Whiteline.org.
We also all post
thewhiteline.org.
Yes, thewhiteline.org.
I want to be clear about thewhiteline.org if you want to see those two films.
And our
and
Instagram is where we post all our updates, about what we're doing, and that handle is thewhiteline.foundation.
At thewhiteline.foundation.
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna give that a follow.
Somebody
give
had
that a follow.
And I'm assuming for our listeners who are not going to be able to participate in Boulder, but would like to contribute, thewhiteline.org is the place to do that.
Absolutely right, and they could register too. Like
And do the virtual.
virtual. We send them everything that the in-person riders get, and it's free. That's the biggest thing. We're putting this on. We're covering all the costs. It is free.
Right.
So there's no reason for people not to do it.
Yeah. So this is a rally. This is important.
Yeah.
This is not. Yeah, folks. We're not going out and field sprinting here. This is
a somber ride.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we don't want it to be a sad ride, if that makes sense, right? Because we want a clear call to action to come out of this for people to get on the phone with their legislatures, because we have now until the end of the year to get all these legislatures behind us, because the cycle and the legislation starts January 1 to May 1.
We get so many questions. It's every year. We get a lot of questions about Americans racing in Europe, Americans in the tour. Where's the Americans? Where's the Americans? How many Americans? There are 3 Americans in this summer's tour, which is low for us, but with 3 good ones, it's low. But hey, we got 3 good ones. And I mean, this is, Magnus was a huge talent, right? So for those who say, well, where's the young man? Now we're starting to see them come up and come through. But he was going to be on this stage, right? I mean, you have to imagine. I mean, you look at his Palmares, it speaks for itself.
Yeah, he was national champion on the U.S. national team.
And he was a good kid. Because you can have all the talent in the world and be a bad kid, you don't make it.
Yeah.
And you can be a great kid with no talent and you also don't make it. But he had it
up here too.
Yes, right. So you got to be clever to find your way to the top of the sport. So for those folks at home, like wondering where the Americans are, this should resonate, right? And it should also remind you that we see it in when the roads are closed, right? This dangerous sport, but that's 1 or 2% of people's time, guys and gals' times when they're in the races that we see on TV or read about in the press. The rest of the time is spent out there on the open roads. This is a big deal. It's a really, I'm just speaking personally, like.
It can happen to anybody.
Of course.
And we're talking milliseconds.
Seconds. I know. We talked about this in Boulder.
Yeah.
Right?
Like,
I mean, if it just.
Quarter-second difference, Magnus would be 11 feet ahead. He was going 30 miles an hour when he was hit.
Yeah.
And
or
we all
behind, whatever it is, right? Like, he would be alive.
We all know how collectively this cycling community all across the country takes their training and their performance so seriously. Why can't we all just put a little bit more time into safety and advocate safety? So it's great what you're doing, and I'm all for it. And if anything I could do personally with my circles, I'd love to help.
Thank you. And we want to do things differently. We are partnering with all the big advocacy groups, People for Bikes, Bicycle Colorado, League of American Cyclists, all that. They're our partners. But we are parents of Magnus, and we can say things and do things that those groups can't.
Of course.
Right? And basically it's like, we're not here to fuck around, right? We're going to.
You're fitting right into the show, by the way.
We want to drive shit.
Welcome. You've got some Move DNA in there, Michael.
We want to channel the anger of people, right? Like, because this is not just about cyclists. This is pedestrians too,
right?
Yeah, like, this is all vulnerable road users. Yeah. I mean, there's 46,000 cyclists were hit last year.
46,000?
Yeah. So, yeah.
What is that divided by 365?
Yeah, that's in the U.S.
That's
right?
Let me. I can't do that math, but let me do it weekly. That's close to 1,000 a week.
Any one of those could be a death.
Of course, dear God.
Approximately 67,000 pedestrians were hit. 7,000 pedestrians were killed. That's almost 18% of all car-related deaths. So include cyclists. 20% of all car-related deaths include vulnerable road users. Like, we have to change this. We have to change our culture.
Well, let's get after it.
Yeah.
Let's do it. It starts. Well, I'm telling you when it's going to start. It's going to start August 11th.
Yeah, 4,000 riders.
Ride for Magnus. Ride for your life. August 11th in Boulder. thewhiteline.org.
That's registration is. Yep.
Or otherwise on the IG. at the White Line Foundation.
Yeah, the white line. White line. There's somebody else.
You know what?
Yeah.
You know what?
They wouldn't tell it to
Y'all
us.
you social media experts out there. First of all, put down your social media when you're driving, and when you're done, when you put your car in park, then just search in Instagram or all these things. Just search the White Line. You'll find it. So, Michael, thank you. Cannot be easy to. I can only imagine, or rather, I can't to come on and talk about it. So, thanks for making the journey. It's been cool to connect with you and just hear your story. You're so passionate, which. Yeah, you got some tough days coming up as your new friend. You've got the 11th, you've got the trial, then you got think about that the ride, the trial, and then Christmas. Like holidays are always rough for the most compromised, and this is a compromised situation. So Godspeed, and we'll do anything we can do to help. TheWhiteLine.org.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Thank you, Mike.
All right, everybody. Well, that was heavy, and it was, man. We're all parents here, right? The three of us. How many we got? Three, 8, we had 9 kids up here, right? So, no grandkids, but it's tough. We love bikes, we love kids, we love American talent. This story touched on all of them. So, thanks for listening to that. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see y'all tomorrow. This Tour de France is almost over. See ya.